Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the next couple of hours will be crucial. This as fighting between his troops and Russian forces intensify. Ukrainian forces managed to repel the Russian military in the second largest city of Kharkiv, but shelling has once again resumed there and in the capital, Kiev. Russia claims it has taken 3 key cities, including the port city of Ganishk. Talks between Kyiv and Moscow are due to begin today near the Belarusian border. At the same time, the UN has called a special emergency meeting of all member countries. Well, as the conflict escalates in Ukraine, Unicef is on the ground helping to protect the country's children. To discuss this and how you can help, let's speak to Unicef spokesperson James Elder. Thank you so much for joining us, James. James, where exactly are you, and what are you hearing is happening on the ground in Kiev, especially when it comes to children?
Hi there, Annika. Yeah, good morning. So I'm in Lviv, which is a city in the west of Ukraine. It's become a real thoroughfare as people, mums and dads and families, try to flee from those areas that you just mentioned under real heavy fire. It's quite near the border with Poland, so people are seeking to drive or to take trains, as some of your footage showed. From colleagues in Kiev, it's been another long night in and out of bunkers, working around the clock to try and get so much support to children in all those areas now. This used to be an operation where we focused in the east, where a conflict has been going for quite a number of years now. Of course, now we risk having children across the country affected.
What can actually be done on the ground with children who are obviously terrified, but also there's the problem of food security and their immediate physical safety?
Yeah, absolutely, Annika. We need to make sure supply lines are open, first and foremost, to be able to reach these children, whether it's UNICEF's mobile teams, the child protection mobile teams that go around supporting children with stress and those who have been a victim of abuse. Those are critical. Whether it's rebuilding water systems, which is really big picture, very costly work. Whatever the work is that UNICEF and many other actors on the ground here, and remember, it's still the Ukrainian local municipalities that are bearing the brunt of this, people need access to do their work. And at the end of the day, that means that the conflict has to stop. And that's also what children need. I'm seeing many, many children here with mothers and fathers families being separated, being split up because fathers are staying and mothers are leaving with their children. And these are families who, today the mums and dads would have gone to work as physiotherapists, as teachers, as doctors. These are professional families who do not want to leave their country. So yesterday really was this sort of ocean of sadness of watching all these forced farewells of dads farewelling 5-year-old daughters and husbands and wives saying goodbye as they seek safety. But of course, real safety for children will come when, they can be back in a school, not hearing air sirens, when they can be sleeping in a bed at night, not sleeping in a bunker. And for that to happen, we need peace. Children of Ukraine need peace.
Absolutely. Are we looking at orphan children at this stage? And if so, do we know how many?
Yeah, it's a good question. At the moment, no. At the moment, we're mostly looking at families being separated and a traumatized large number of children who are seeing the stress of their family or who have lived through an active conflict and are now seeing families torn apart. That has a real stress on kids. And of course, whether it's in South Africa or North America, all children around the world have also just borne the brunt of COVID. We hoped maybe the world was slowly getting out of that. There'll be a sense of normalcy to children, to education, to economies. This is just an additional layer of the worst kind of stress on these children.
James, what can we do so far away, but I think the whole world is feeling the ramifications of the horrors of what's actually going on in the Ukraine. What can we do? We sit here feeling so helpless.
Yeah, thanks, Annika. It's a great question, and we all do. I don't think anyone just expected to be talking about something like this in 2022. At the end of the day, supporting, I think, two parts, honestly. on a philosophical level, if I may, that just supporting those the migrants, and whether it's now Ukrainians going into border countries, of course they're not going to be in South Africa, but it's again that sense of the migrant. I think that I know from UNICEF the evidence is very clear on migration that it does ultimately bring value to an economy and to a community. Migrants add value to that, but of course, migration also gets a bad name, and migrants then have a doubly difficult time having to leave a country and then settle. So tolerance, full stop, just tolerance among people, understanding what they've gone through, whether it's Ukrainians now or people in other countries. And for anyone who's got any spare rand, then UNICEF has a presence here in Ukraine, on those borders where people are fleeing in Romania, in Poland, in Moldova. So any few rand going to UNICEF, we will channel them across to the sort of work that I've spoken about.
James, just quickly before I let you go, and I know that the phone lines are probably tricky, what is the situation like in Lviv? Is it stable? Do you feel safe-ish? And are you able to get access to food or get to the office and lead some kind of modality of normal life?
Yeah, Annika, yes, it is. It's safe. There's air raid sirens from time to time, but there's been no fighting, which is great news. The city, a beautiful city, I have to add. One often forgets these things. There's a sense of normality. Shops are still functioning, and there are those supplies. Some places there's no fuel, which is critical as people are seeking to leave. Yesterday, when I went to the border, very short journeys take a long time. Civilians are out there building barricades and roadblocks and manning cars as they come in. Mums and grandmothers are out there cooking food on the roads to give people who are starting that very long journey, distance not long, time-bound long. So Ukrainians are stepping up for one another. So, there's a sense here that you feel a safety in the community. But, of course, if missiles start, it's a very different scenario for everyone. And, of course, your average person is just praying that doesn't occur.
Does it feel like things are ratcheting up, as if tensions are escalating, or whether some kind of talks and the international, sanctions, etc., could halt things as they are at the moment?
Yeah, no, as a humanitarian, I'd be amiss to speculate on the politics, but certainly that it feels that there's a growing tension among everyday Ukrainians. So I met more than 100 yesterday. They are making a decision with their feet based on trying to leave the country, and yet those who stay are often in tears about their commitment to staying behind. So on a political level, I'm just unsure. On a Ukrainian level, it's a real mix of that pressure forcing people to go and other people being committed to stay.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you're doing there for UNICEF, UNICEF spokesperson in Ukraine, James Elder.